the stuff, music stuff, it's great, but it's not everything. What matters more is your soul. Like, it's you as a person. I feel like there's been moments where I've been humbled by God, even on stage. This is not even for you, this is for me.
If you were talking to yourself at the age of 15, what is one thing that you wish that you could say?
It's okay to not be okay, but don't stay not okay. But then when it starts getting into a moment where it's like you're serving him by serving others, it kind of shakes people up a bit.
That's when I had kind of like separated my identities. I had school, and it was like school and life, like on this side. And then it was like, okay, church is on this side. Those two worlds never really mixed at all. It is like a big issue when it comes to a lot of younger people growing up, because and you're surrounded by things that are just like, you know, from the world. It's like it's easy to be a part of.
Don't hold those emotions in, because we've all felt them. Mm-hmm. But better to pour it into someone that can actually help you than rather than someone can tells you what you need to hear. Make it part of your identity. Don't go around judging everybody, like, too, because that's also what we're not called to do.
Yeah. So guys, this is the first episode of the Little Brother podcast. I have my guest here. This is Daniel Rosales. Daniel, say what's up.
What's up?
Yeah. This is actually my older cousin. Super excited to have him on as my first guest. And let's get straight into it. Daniel, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you serve, what church you go to.
Yeah, I go to Journey Church, Southgate, the best church out there. But yeah, I at the local church, I serve as MD. I help a little bit when I can with the youth, but it's stepping more away from that. But I also serve at my district for LA District as MD. So all things music, all things. For all the events, choosing the musicians, singers, leads, and all that, in charge of camps and even other side projects that we do. And, you know, I'm in my mid-20s and feel like I'm getting old. But, you know, but it's pretty cool. I think that's a big portion of my life right there.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything.
How did you step into your role as MD?
At my local church, well, my dad, my pastor as well, he needed my help, and you know, I was there to serve and help him and to support him, not just as my dad, but as my pastor. But for Lad Mop, it happened really fast. It happened really suddenly, when I was least expecting, when I wasn't even asking for it. About 2 years ago now, I basically got a call saying that was possibly the next decision, that they were considering me to take over the music for the youth. And, you know, we had a lot of meetings about it, or a couple meetings, not a lot. we had like maybe one meeting about it where we were talking about it, and they asked, like, is that something you'd be interested in? And, you know, I felt really honored, not qualified. And I truly, genuinely mean that, like wasn't expecting it. It was a big old surprise. And I took a step back to think about it, because I know it's a big responsibility. And I said, you know what, like, at the end of the day, it's service. So I'm doing this not just about the music or anything like that, but really about serving the young people of LA, you know, through the music, you know. So that's kind of how it happened, and we've done so much since. And it's been a real blessing, and I'm so grateful.
You said that you felt that you were called before you felt qualified. Do you feel like that's a very common theme for people when it comes to ministry in general?
Yeah, I think in ministry, when you, like, I mean, first off, like, God came and ministered to us, you know, and I think that's, like, the first step in everybody's ministry is first, like, going through that process, and first encountering God, giving your life to God and all that. And so I think when you reach that point in your life, you know, all you want to do is just please Him and honor Him and serve Him. But then when it starts getting into a moment where it's like you're serving Him by serving others, then feel like it kind of shakes people up a bit, because then you're like, dude, like, I'm not qualified. Like, I just want to stay, like, just me and you, Jesus. You know, like, just, I kind of want to stay here. But then He's like, no, like my people need me through you, you know, like, to represent God through through us and how we conduct ourselves, how we live. So I think that's where it gets like kind of weird. Not weird, but like people get shaken up, fearful, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, you gotta look to like when God was talking to Moses, and you know Moses kept coming up with these excuses and like about every reason, and to think that God didn't know those things already. You know what I mean? God knows of our weaknesses. God knows all that, even as He calls us. So we gotta eventually just accept His calling, you know, and not rely on ourselves, but rely on more what He can do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say you mentioned your first encounter with God. What was that like?
I was probably like, I want to say, definitely before I was a junior. I think I was a kid in the kids ministry at one of our. Y'all want to wait?
No, it's good. You keep talking.
Like as a kid, going to district conventions, and they had something for the kids ministry, and that's where I feel like I had encountered God for the first time. Very overwhelming, very like loved, cared for, like unlike any other way. Where I realized, okay, like there's no real doubt, or not even that, because I mean sometimes you encounter it and you try to make sense of things as a kid, but now being like, okay, I can't ignore that experience because it's like it's hard to forget. Kind of thing.
And I feel like as when it comes to like that first experience with God, that tends to be such like a change in life, right? Like it's almost like just proof, or it's like, oh yeah, like this is real. And it's like the fact that you had that at such a young age, I feel like that's so. Do you feel like that had any different effect considering how young you were when you had that first encounter?
Yeah, I think, you know, I wouldn't say like everybody maybe treats their first encounter the best way or perfectly.
Okay, what does that mean?
Because like you might have that first encounter, and then you start feeling that pull and tug of God, but then you're also like, I guess, struggling with like what your current situation is, because then it's like you're used to your situation and you're trying to make sense of this new thing, this new powerful thing, and then you know it's where that thing, it's not just, you know, like a side piece, it's becomes ingrained into everything you do. So then you start trying to make sense. Okay, how does this become ingrained in everything I do? So I think being young and all that, you know, it's not like always so perfect. Sometimes it's a process, and you trust that process, and you trust the plan that God has. If that, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
What was life like for you growing up in church? Because you grew up in church all your life. Yeah.
I grew up in church all my life. It's been a journey, trademark. But it's been a journey. Like where we grew up in an apostolic church that used to be an assembly, but was what eventually separated off of the assembly. We kind of grew there a little bit, and then when I was about 8, we moved to a church into the assembly, Hosanna Apostolic Church, which is where Bishop is at now, and that's where I feel like our ministries really grew. Like that was where the groundwork was beginning in all of our lives, like my whole family. And for 8 years we were there. So it's funny, like 8 years, you know, we moved there, and then 8 years happened, and then that's where my dad got the call to become a pastor. But to bring that church that we grew up in back into the assembly through his pastorship. So
the church that you grew up in ended up being the church that your dad became the pastor of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, it wasn't anything crazy to where like, oh, like completely new members. Where like some people, it's like families are called from completely different cities. It was like we came back to people that I literally remembered from my childhood. So that was a cool thing. But that whole process in itself, like, you know, I remember a lot from when I was a kid before we moved to Hosanna. You know, the family camps. That was like a big thing. The youth camps, we would do like the local stuff. And the friends, you know, and the family, because basically all the time, like our church or at least the churches I've been at or was a member at, half of them, more than half of them, was like my family. So, when we moved to Hosanna, it was definitely something new, but met some friends right away. I'm very extroverted.
Okay.
I can be introverted sometimes at times when I need to be, but for the most part, I like talking to people. And I met a lot of good friends at Hosanna and grew with them. You know, grew together, and saw our ministries grow as we were getting older. Because it was from the age of 8 to like 16. So you gotta imagine, like, I'm going through middle school and high school with some of these people. So,
Oh yeah, you grew up with the same people. Did you go to public school?
I went to public school. That's a good question. I went to public school most of my life, and then for 2 years in middle school, I was homeschooled. So yeah, I was doing really bad, 6th grade, really bad grades. Had had a couple of meetings with my parents, and they asked me, you know, like, do you want to try it? And I'm like, yeah. And best thing in the world, like, if you're at home, they have courses set up for you, and it was a Christian school, so it was very God integrated, and yeah, I think it was really good. But I also didn't treat that the best either, because then like I would procrastinate on the assignments, and then they would all pile up at the end, and to where I even got in trouble. Sorry, mom and dad, but where it costed them, you know. But then eventually, going back into high school, I went back to regular school.
Okay.
Which that was, for me, that was an easy process, because I feel like the middle school culture and then the high school culture changed.
Yeah, for sure.
At least where I was growing up, like it was very different. I feel like people were a little more grown up. People weren't bickering about things that people would probably make a big deal in middle school. You know, so
what was it like? What was it like for you as growing up? You know, growing up in church, but also being like exposed to people like from the world. You know, I'm sure you had friends from school, friends that weren't from church, things like that. What was that like? If you can tell me a little about that.
Well, I was that kid growing up in elementary school that was bringing God into everything.
Really? Okay.
That was that, or at least to the world, that corny kid that was bringing religion to the classroom in certain ways. Like, I remember they were reading a book story where they were talking about how the moon was created, and they were saying basically like a fox came and breathed fire on the moon, and then the moon turned into like what the moon was. And I'm like, no, because the Bible says the moon was created by God. Yeah. And then they're like, this is a story. Like, in front of this is in front of everybody. So, like, I'm the one that put myself out there in front of everyone. And then I was like, oh, it's just a story. It's just
not my bad, guys.
But it's not Bible, you know? So,
yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah. So I was like that. Middle school, too. But I think that middle school was where I really started to struggle. Because then you fall into the wrong crowd. You try to be like everybody else.
Right.
And then you don't go to school with your church friends. So there's no one to really hold you accountable. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta really be careful in middle school, because that's, you know, you're trying to figure yourself out. Everybody, I once heard somebody say, like, middle school is like how do you say? Middle school is like a popularity contest and nobody's winning. And so it's like, in that, because of that, like, you know, everybody's trying to figure themselves out, but they all look dumb as kids, you know, like, bro, you have no idea. You got so much more life ahead of you, and some things just don't matter. So definitely, I think that played a part into my grades and why I became homeschooled. Is I was kind of falling into the wrong crowd, trying to feel like I needed the need to belong. And then, you know, eventually middle school, to where my only friends were my church friends, and I love that. But getting teased by them too, you know, where they would be like, Daniel, you don't even know, like, you're homeschooled, and I'm like, no, you know. So
yeah.
Where I think that was a big thing, where that did blow up into a big thing with my friends, where they could see, like, where I kind of stopped. I distanced myself from them, because I'm like, you guys are gonna keep saying that. Yeah. I'm like, all right, then we don't relate. And then eventually they're like, we're sorry, Daniel. Like, just, you know, like, we won't make fun of that no more. I'm like, okay, like, that's all I want. You know, like, might not be going through the same things you do, or be going to Asheville Middle School, but I feel like I don't need to. Like, I'm satisfied with just my church friends. So,
did you have actually, before I ask that, I feel like in middle school in general, that is like tends to be like when you start to get like a little bit of like your own, like, you start building your identity a little bit. And at least for me, like, that's because similar to you, I grew up in church as well. And when it came to middle school, I feel like for me, that's when I had kind of like separated my identities. I had school, and it was like school and life, like on this side, and then it was like, okay, and church is on this side, and it was like those two worlds never really mixed at all. And I feel like that is like a big issue when it comes to a lot of younger people growing up, because when you're put around so many people, then you're put into these crowds, and you're surrounded by things that are just like, from the world. It's like it's easy to be a part of, even if it's in the sense and not like necessarily you're joining in on like bad things, but it's just like you're hanging out with your friends at a mall or something, but I feel like if you're in your opinion, what do you think? What would you recommend someone that, like, I don't know, let's imagine someone is seeing this on their way to their first year of middle school, and it's just like what would you wish you would have been able to tell yourself?
Yeah, like first and foremost, me giving like it's just my opinion. Okay, it's not the word of God. So like, and I didn't do middle school perfectly either. So I don't want to portray myself to be someone that just knows it all or anything like that. But I think, like, you don't have to separate the two identities and feel weird about it. And I feel like people start realizing that once they're like late high school, if that makes sense.
So you're saying,
like, I feel like a lot of people. I feel like you're not the only one, because I was there right there too, where, like, you when you are starting to do bad things or say the wrong things, and you start feeling convicted as a kid, but then you don't know what to do. You're like, well, but I'm at middle school, like everybody's doing that kind of thing. I feel like it can be in like your identity to a point where you're not driving a wedge between you and those people at school. I feel like if you really do see yourself as an ambassador, then you treat yourself as an ambassador. You don't just say I'm an ambassador and then you go in with the crowd. Like, be that more mature self. Be yourself if that's who you're called to be, and don't feel pressured to separate. Because then once the world starts seeing the inconsistency, then they have something to like put on you. Where like you say you're Christian, but you still do all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So I would say like be as strong as you can. Find those people that don't hold those emotions in, because we've all felt them. But better to pour into someone that can actually help you than rather than someone tells you what you need to hear or what you want to hear, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like make it part of your identity, but also don't go around judging everybody. Like, too. You know what I mean? Because that's also what we're not called to do.
Yeah.
Like, be that representative to where people do get curious, and the reality is, like, I haven't always been the best representative, to where I've actually probably pushed people away from that. We're like, if that's the representation, then I don't want to follow that.
Yeah.
So treat yourself like a representative, but don't be the wrong representative. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I think I do understand what you're saying. Now, let's say moving on a little bit more into the transition of like high school. Like, now it goes from the transition of like you're starting to understand a little bit more about who you are. Honestly, a lot of people start working in high school, driving, things like that. What was high school like for you?
It was a good transition. I actually remembered a lot of people from 6th grade and elementary school that did show up at my high school.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think I did my best. There's a lot of characters in high school. Stuff that you're not used to. I think I tried my best to not be too good to hang around. I don't know how to say it. To be too good to hang around certain people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because there was times where I was hanging around the anime crew, and I did not watch anime, and I honestly do not, still to this day, I don't really enjoy it. I don't...
Okay.
Maybe it's different, maybe because I had never tried it, but growing up, like, there was that, like, those anime people, and then the people that didn't watch anime, and all of that is, like, looking down on them, but Man, they would take their Switches because the Switch like came out during my
Yeah,
high
okay.
school, and I would be there playing with them. I'm like, bro, we don't have to connect with anime, but we can connect with games, video games.
For sure.
So, did that. Also want to say like I didn't probably do high school perfectly because I probably was not the best like representative, because everybody knew like I went to church, was a Christian, but I didn't play that role perfectly either, and I accept that 100%, but I think also too what changed at least around that time, like I went to high school from 2016 to 2020, which was also around like Trump being president and all that, like where like being like the extremity. Like the extremities of being what side that you're gonna be politically was happening to, and what I found was like a lot of what was being taught was like a victim mentality, a victim mindset, where like they were making you focus on privilege and white privilege and all that stuff, where that was the topic of conversation like all the time, and I understood it, but I think it also pushed everybody to just stay the victim and not accept responsibility for their actions, and I think that's where probably a lot of people that I grew up with like struggle with, is accepting their responsibility in their actions, as opposed to, always saying that there's a reason for why they act. When you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I act like this way because I grew up poor.
Yeah.
Or I grew up in all that, and it's like no, like you're responsible for what you do. So, I think that was the difference. I was trying to combat that too. People trying to make me feel bad for like the upbringing, but I'm like, I was blessed. Like I have the greatest parents in the world. I have a good family. And like I don't see the need in focusing on all that when, we don't get to control how we were born into this world. We can only control what we do.
Yeah, it's almost like you were like getting this identity put like on you, like almost to say like from people that may have struggled, right? Maybe with whatever, maybe like trying to enforce those struggles like on you to. Yeah. When in your head you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have to go through that. Like that's not like.
Yeah, and I think it makes those people that actually do have struggles like makes their struggles a little less valuable, because now you're throwing everybody into that like we're all struggling kind of thing, when it's like there's people that I know that have to ride their bike to school, like they do, or take the bus to school, like they don't have a choice, and there's some that they were driving to school, so like I'm like, we're not all the same, like you have to take it case by case. Yeah, everybody knew I was a Christian. I would try to invite people to church, but being that it's Southgate and everybody's pretty much a Catholic, they're like, nah, I don't think I can. Like I don't know how my parents would take it. So I understood. I'm like, I can't really force that, and nobody's an adult there, so it's not like, bro, like you get to make your own decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it was cool. Did football for a year and a half, and then I was like, nah. Like, we would lose, like, every game. So I'm like, I'm not trying to go through all this pain and punishment just to lose, just to go 12-2. Like, or if it's the other way around. So, did that. Joined the Bible club for a bit. But
in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the people that were running it were also, like, they had kind of wild ideas. It was a little sketchy, kind of. Where it could have easily turned to like people creating their own ideologies.
Oh, okay. More people just bringing in like their own.
I think there could have been a little more accountability there. Because a teacher for a club to exist, there has to be a teacher to supervise it. So I feel like the teacher, was there and was there to be devil's advocate. But yeah, I feel like have discernment in all places, not just because it's in school and you have that club. Then you start throwing discernment out the window just for what? Inclusivity, So yeah, did that. And yeah, that's pretty much.
You, you mentioned how you were the one like inviting people, the one that you never really felt like ashamed of your religion.
Yeah, never ashamed, but I think at times where I would catch myself falling into the crowd still at the same time. So I would never hide the fact that that's where I was or that's where I stood, because I feel like that was a big part of my identity, but also combating with the pressure of everybody being there as well. It was a weird balance, like where I didn't care what people thought, but then I was also like insecure and not really like, just trying to figure myself out.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone that maybe struggles with that? Maybe they're out of school and they obviously want to maybe talk to their friends about like these things, about God, about what He's done maybe in their life or whatever, but it's also kind of like something just holding them back almost. Like if you kind of understand what I mean. Like, what advice would you give? Like, in your opinion, is it just as simple as like, oh, you just don't need to be embarrassed and you can just like talk about it?
Well, no, I don't know if it's like simple, because again, I couldn't even make it simple for myself. I still struggle with it. But I think now, like, even being that I haven't been in high school in, it's about to be like 6 years. God. But being that that's the case, like, I think a big part of why we struggle to keep true to like what God has called us to be is because we struggle also with our identity. That we haven't built the foundation of our identity in who we are and accepting that, who we're called to be. So I think that builds up like insecurity and builds like the fear of man rather than the fear of the Lord.
Okay.
That's the beginning of all wisdom, but if you don't have that, like, where's your wisdom journey going to start to? So I think that's a big part of it, and it could come from like a lot of different places. It could come from just upbringing. It could be dealing with certain sin in your life that makes it hard, that makes you question yourself and the grace of God, and so it could cover a lot of places. But I think that's just the core and all that. So you have to ask yourself, like, why am I insecure? Like, where is it coming from? Not just I'm messing up here and I'm messing up there and I can't stop. It's like, no. Like, why do you feel the need to go there? What's causing, like, do you struggle with being wanted? And where does that come from? Do you struggle with being loved? And where does that come from? And all that. And to face those things and to leave it in the hands of God so that then you start building that journey. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So, obviously, you would consider identity to be a very important thing in a young man's life. Right now, let's say I'm a young man that's struggling with my identity. What would you say? What would you recommend me to do?
Well, I would say go to like your local leader, because I feel like we're all in our different places for a reason. We feel like sometimes it's hard to go and hear the truth from people that we admire just because we're gonna be looked at differently. I feel like rather to put yourself out there and to start living like how you're supposed to be called, than to never do that out of fear and then always be struggling for the rest of your life. So you gotta look at it that way. Like, am I gonna just stay stuck for the rest of my life, or am I gonna push myself to be the person that I do want to be? So I would say, like, go to your local leadership. I am not your local leadership, so you can always ask me and I'll always be there. But at the end of the day, like, your local church members, your local church leadership probably knows you better than I do. And when you tend to go to people that don't see you, how you act at church and all that, you tend to give them one side of the story. When your leadership is literally watching you all the time and they see maybe two sides of the story. So, I recommend not going to every single person for advice, because not everybody's out there to help you. Not everybody out there can help you the best, because not everybody out there knows you. There's that, like how James 5:16, I believe, says, like, confess your sins to one another so you may be healed. And I feel like that's starting that process too. Like, you get hurt and cut up from sin, because that's what sin does, and you're trying to fix it yourself, but you're not willing to go through confession. And not only that, but you're not willing to go through confession through the people that can actually help you, and that you already know what they're going to tell you. But if you really want that change, then you're willing to go through that painful, sucky process. So I feel like maybe I got off topic a little bit, but I think those are big key things. Not being afraid, but also going to the right people for advice. Not everybody can help you the best way, and a lot of people know the people that can help them best way, and some people don't go to certain people for advice because they already know what they're going to hear. So it's like, if you already know what you're going to hear, like, what are you actually doing to get better? Or do you just want to be coddled all the time? Do you just want to be told what you want to hear? Do you just want to be told, you got this, mijo, instead of, mijo, like, you need to repent? So if you're not willing to go to that leadership, it's oftentimes because you already know what you need to do. You know what I mean? So I think it's like going, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, sorry, but stop going to your friends that are struggling with the same things you are. Go to people that have actually conquered something. I think that's a big thing. You know what I mean? Because then it's just a sob fest, cry fest of sharing each other's emotions, and it gets nobody nowhere. You go to other people, like-minded people, other people that are willing to confess as well and are willing to grow. Which took me a while to learn that too. But I'm still learning to this day, so I still don't have it all together. But at least there's a big amount of direction in my life. You know what I mean? To how to get there, kind of thing. I don't know if that answers the question. But.
Mijo, you need to repent. That's a fire bar.
Sometimes it's just we need to hear, then that's it. We don't need to go through the whole we're spilling each other feelings and talking like, well, it's because. And it's complicated because, sometimes it's not really that complicated. Sometimes it's just basic, you need to turn away. That's it, So, but at the end of the day, it lands on what your leadership and trusting the ordained ministry that your leadership has, that God has put them in to shepherd you. You know what I mean? There has to be that trust, But same thing, on the leaders' end, not sharing people's businesses out there, knowing how to discern and all that, that's important too. So it goes on both ends, building that culture of accountability, being real, and with being real with the right people, not the white people. Right.
I want to talk to you a little bit about family. I have a question I want to ask. When you look at younger men today, when you look at even younger people in general, what's one thing that you really notice about someone based on their relationship with their parents?
Dang. I think it depends each person. But typically, if it's a guy, what I see a lot is if it's a bad relationship, it tends to be, and depends how bad it is. If it's bad because they're giving you advice and you're not taking it, then that's kind of on you. But if it's bad because, we will always honor our mother and fathers at all times. But because there's something there on their end, because they're also not perfect, they're human, and they'll make mistakes, but not losing that honor and that respect for them. Typically, what I see is from younger men is they're doing a lot to not be them.
To not be their parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're doing a lot. At least I don't know about the mother situation. I feel like with men, there's a certain point where they gotta be men, and eventually that tie with mom, because they are becoming men, and that's kind of the way things go. That starts dying down no more. But with the father, they try to do a lot to not be like them or end up like them. If that makes sense. And some people handle it better than others. You know what I mean? Some people, what they do is they accept a lot of responsibility and they're thriving and they're doing good because of it. Others, is they're making a lot of mistakes because of that. You know, they're not willing to take that advice. You know, because it doesn't matter who it's coming from. If it's good advice, it's good advice. You know, they don't take it. So then they're making a lot of mistakes. You know, they're trying to figure it out on their own. So because of that, they're making a lot of unnecessary mistakes. You know, or not taking accountability from everyone because they're like, I got this. Like, I'm doing everything I can. That's what I notice a lot, at least for the majority. There are people like they realize that they can't accept how things are sometimes, but they're still going to be like who they're called to be. You know, they're still going to be themselves and all that. But oftentimes I see that like trying to compensate for that, you know, because when there is that bad relationship, you know, there's a lot of hurt involved, and it can be on both ends. Maybe the parents are being hurt by their children because the children are just not watching what they say and how watching, like, not thinking that they have feelings too, that one day we're all going to be fathers. And that doesn't make us any less human. It's just we have a different kind of role, responsibility. You know, so I kind of seeing a lot of that. Because even in that process of, let's say I am doing everything I can to not end up, you know, like maybe my father and all that, which that's not me. But in the process of that, you're doing things out of hurt. Your process is still, the foundation of that is still the hurt from your probably father or from your parents. So in the end, hurt people are going to end up hurting people. So it doesn't matter how hard you're trying to not be like them. You are still going to pick up some traits, and you're probably going to hurt other people in that process. So, really got to ask yourself, like what's the right approach, but also like go through your process of healing if that's what it takes. To go to someone to open your feelings about, and to get that perspective from someone else on the outside, who isn't clouded by hurt, who isn't clouded by emotion. You know what I mean? Who is led by the Spirit. So, I mean, I feel like that's what I see. You know, I feel like, you know, even looking for a wife, like, you look at that, like, what's the relationship with their parents? And sometimes if it's not good, it depends why. You know, sometimes it's because they don't know how to handle criticism and they can't take correction, or just because the parents are not in accordance with their way of life, being Christian and like that. So then there's that disconnect. It's kind of what I've seen. So I think it's really important, you know, not just doing things like, for instance, what I just said, that example. There's nothing wrong with that, taking responsibility and being able to accomplish it all. But where's it coming out of? That's very important, I think, too. You know what I mean? Hope I answered that.
What would you see for a man? What differences do you see, like, for a man that has like a strong godly figure in his life versus one that may not?
I mean, I'll point at like the obvious ones. Like, you do have that strong. It depends on the level of accountability you do have with that person, but typically it's you're not trying to figure things on your own, because typically that whole thing, trying to figure life on your own, comes from a place of pride. And so when you let go of the pride and you do accept, like, I do need help, you know, but eventually there's gonna be times where you do need to make those choices on your own and be a man on your own. But when you're not trying to figure things on your own, you know, it's now you're not just freelancing in life. You know, you have that accountability and you're doing everything to stay on that right path. Without that, I feel like it's very hard and difficult. Not that it's impossible, you know what I mean? Because, you know, there are people that just didn't have that mentor and are relying on their relationship with God and are strong in that. You know what I mean? So I don't want to discount those people too, you know, because, you know, everybody's walk is different. But for the majority that, you know, that is available to them, you know, not using that to your advantage, I'm like, you gotta ask yourself, like, well, why not? You know, if it doesn't hurt to have that in your life, why? And big thing is pride, you know. I can't do it on my own, you know what I mean? You know, and we shouldn't be proud people, you know.
I want to ask, if one of your youth came to you to ask something along the, let's just say it's somebody that you know that their parents aren't in church, and however they get there, they get to church, and they're asking you, they're coming to you just to ask, like I'm struggling with respecting my parents because the things that they're doing are, let's just say, worldly, whatever. I want to live according to here, like to what I'm learning here in church, but I don't want to stray and disrespect my parents. I want to keep like a healthy household altogether. Where would you kind of lead, like, direct them? What would you kind of have them do?
I think just because you're choosing to walk with God doesn't mean you have to compromise respecting your parents. The Bible says honor your father and your mother. Doesn't say what kind of mother, what kind of father. It could be the worst father, worst mother. Honor them, and you choosing to walk with God doesn't mean you completely lose that. It's just those are decisions you're gonna have to make because eventually we're all gonna be adults, you know. Or even if you're talking from a youth that are adults, you know, they're responsible for themselves. You know what I mean? You can't be like, well, I'm doing this because of my parents. So it's like, okay, then at one point, do you draw the line and you say, I'm doing this for God? You know what I mean? So I think it really depends on what they're asking for. But if it's with respect and honor to their parents, you know, I would say you don't have to lose that to walk with Christ. If anything, now because you're walking with Christ, you're doing that even more. But your decision to walk with Christ and to make that separate in your family has nothing to do with honoring them. These are my beliefs and this is my God, you know? So I feel like that's, you know, I probably wouldn't share it to them like that, but I would be like, well, like, where does it say to stop honoring your mother and father after following me? Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? So you have to look at it like it is going to be hard, and you are going to clash. To where even some parents are going to make an ultimatum for you, where it's like, if you keep going to there, then eventually I'm going to cut this off from your life, and you got to. Those are I think key moments in life that we have where we are making that decision known, not just before them but before God. Like, nothing's going to take God away from me, like not even family. You know what I mean? And defending your faith and not separating the two. Like, you don't have to separate those lives. Same thing like school, church, and your family. You know, you bring God in at the appropriate times, or even all times, and you still honor them. But it's like you have to ask yourself, like, if I'm presented with that ultimatum, what am I gonna do? And I feel like you choosing God is not dishonoring them. You know what I mean? It's just those are decisions you have to make.
Makes sense. I'm glad I got your take on a couple of those things. Kind of just to change it up a little bit more, or again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about ministry. Let's just say, let's start off with something simple. Something just like, for someone that wants to get into ministry, what would you recommend for them? What would you tell them? Someone asked you, I want to get into ministry.
Oh, it was cool because last year at camp, got to be part of like a panel.
Okay.
We talked about that. Like, we were all part of different ministries. Like, but I think they had talked about was like Journey Golf, and you know, it's not running now, but you know, it's still is there available if we ever want to get back to it. But it's not. I feel like it's not the priority at the church right now. But we were talking about. I think the good points was made is you have to understand it's not your ministry, it's God's ministry, and ministry like means to serve above all else things. So I would recommend really like having the right mindset about it. We like to sometimes make our ministry our identity, so then when correction comes on the ministry side, then we feel personally attacked. But correction should never be personal. We should always be glad that there's someone willing to lead us in the right direction, and not throw emotions in the middle of it, if that makes sense. So I think understanding that it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God, and the whole point of it is to serve His people. You know what I mean? Doesn't discount that you're not gonna be able to do cool things and great things, but those great things are for them, you know. So if you like adopt that and plus your identity, you're being strong in your identity, you're gonna be headed in the right direction, I think. Because now what you decide to put into practice, what you decide to learn, and all that, now you're just not learning to be an influencer or to be cool or to be seen. Like, you're doing it because you know that the people can be blessed by it. You know what I mean? So,
Would you say that when it comes to starting in ministry that you have to wait to be called on by someone? Or is that something that you start on your own and maybe bring to someone's attention, or how does that look?
I think it depends. I think sometimes, like, everybody's walk is different. Like mine was, like, I always loved music,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wanted to start getting into music, and then through that way, like, just conversation happens, it gets brought up, and then you start getting included. Others is like that, like they've already been doing it for years, and they come to Christ, and then they start using it for and all that. I think you gotta be wise about how you bring it up, or how you try to insert yourself into the ministry, because sometimes maybe it's just not your time. You know, sometimes maybe you do have to endure a process, and you have to trust, like, the timing, God's timing. So if you really give your ministry to God, and it really is about serving His people and all that, then God will put you in rooms that you have no idea, like, how you got there. Why? Because God goes past any hallway conversations, any gossip. He goes past any kind of demeaning talk over your life. Like, God like honors His faithful people, you know what I mean, in amazing ways, to where you shouldn't have to worry about how you get inserted. You just worry about serving Him however He wants. And sometimes that's what happens. Like, you're inserted you're really interested in a certain ministry for a lot of your life, but then God points you in a completely different direction, to where you couldn't maybe do what you wanted, but you're doing what He wants you to do.
Honestly, I want to go deeper. What like you said, ministry is to serve, but like, I want to go deeper into that. What does that mean, deeper? Like, I like the example of someone that is, let's say, a musician out in the world, comes to Christ later on, wants to come in and be the piano player, let's say. And now, what does ministry mean for that person? They're serving. Who are they serving? What does that look like? Like, who are they serving?
They're using their gifts and their talents to serve God's people through the music. I feel like that's what it means for them. Like now it's not, I'm doing drums on my own, and I'm doing it for my own self-gratification and my own validation, and because it's my God. It's like, no, now I have a new God, and these are the talents that I feel like God has given me. These are the gifts that I have, and now we're using that to bless His people. You know what I mean? It's changing the purpose behind everything you do, behind every talent you have, behind every gift you have, behind everything God already has instilled in you when you were born. You know what I mean?
Taking out the worldly beforehand, let's say someone coming in, growing up in church, you see all these different ministries, and you're in a decent place with your walk with God, where you feel like you're at a point where you want to start to serve. How do you go about finding, like, what ministry to go into?
You always start by putting into prayer. I think everybody that I've heard, a lot of testimonies I've heard, it all started with, like, God, like, whatever you want me to do, I will do that. But also, like, meaning it, not just doing it because you've heard all these testimonies, genuinely having that heart, like that humble heart. Being humble was, like, a very big part of that. You know what I mean? And so what was the question?
It was, how do you go about finding what ministry to go into?
Oh, yeah, like, first I think putting into prayer. I feel like, but also, like, paying attention to the stuff that you are good at, or the stuff, the tools you have, and offering that to God. You know what I mean? Offering that, being of service to the church, no matter what it is. If you're good at cleaning, if you're good at detailing cars, if you're good at detailing the benches at your church, kind of thing, is like, I want to offer those services. You know what I mean?
How do you feel about, like, ministry doesn't always necessarily need to be, like, platform, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be you out on the stage, you being, like, you personally know you are very in, like, a platform ministry, but, like, what would you say to, like, I guess you kind of already explained it, but I guess that's just a point to bring up that, yeah, ministry isn't necessarily always just about being on the platform, right?
Yeah, it's not. I think people, we hear that all the time through different speakers, like glorifying the platform over God and all that, and I totally understand. Not all platforms are the same. You know what I mean? There's different platforms for different purposes. But it's not as glamorous as people think it is. There's a lot of work that needs to be done beforehand, and it's not just talent work. It's not just practical work. It's spiritual too. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like those people that are on this platform, whatever's in their heart is going to get transmitted to the people. So you have to take that into account, and God really does care about who's on that platform, kind of thing. So it's a high calling. It's a big responsibility, but it's also not everything. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, I feel like we shouldn't separate it just because we're a platform. And it's easy for me to say because it's like you said, like, I've been on a platform for all my life, so I can understand someone coming along and saying, like, well, Daniel, like, you've been on a platform all your life or most of your life, which it hasn't always been like that. Like, people don't really know where I started. So it's like, it's easy for you to say because you already made it to the platform. Like, we're trying to make it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you weren't there, like, for the majority of my life, like, all the practicing I had to put into it. You weren't there for all the hard work, the long nights, and all that, because that's what it costs.
Right.
You weren't there for the mental breakdowns. You know what I mean? Like, you weren't there for the amount of effort I had to put, for one service, and it takes a lot of work. So I feel like you're asking for it, but if the opportunity is given to you, can you actually come to it? And if you do fail and you do flop, are you gonna make a bunch of excuses, or are you gonna accept that I'm not maybe cut out for this?
Dang, so it's almost even like beware, like just like, yeah, it may look nice, but like before you get into that, like, really think about whether or not like it is for you. I agree 100%. When I talk to people from my church or people from my district about things about like media related stuff, and it's like, dude, like I really want to do this. Like, this is like, it looks so much fun. Like, you look so cool. Like, you're just like, you're up there, you get to just like take pictures. Your content comes out so cool. And it brings me back to like when I first started. And when I first started, I remember I was shooting, and literally had no clue what I was doing, right? And this was maybe like 2 years ago, but 3 years ago, maybe. Yeah, about 3 years ago. When I got into my ministry, I realized quickly how much of like a skill gap there was. And it was just because it's media ministry isn't something that I've been part of very long. But when I got into it, it was very like, oh yeah, like, it's nothing that you can just pick up and do. Like, I thought it was going to be something like, oh, I'm just going to get my camera, take some pictures. And
yeah.
But no, I think that's such a great point that you made, because dude, after when I started, like, you're right, like, no one sees those late nights. Like, for you practicing, for me, it was a lot of editing, a lot of learning things, a lot of breakdowns, like you said, because can't figure something out. But definitely hearing that is good advice to really think about whether or not you do want it.
And people have to realize, like, dude, those events only last like 2 hours. And so there's so much work for 2 hours of events. But we don't treat it like it's just 2 hours. We treat it like it's the best event in the world. Why? Because people are going to be healed. People are going to be saved, you know what I mean? So it is a lot bigger than it is, that people like really make it out to be, you know what I mean? Because it really isn't about us, it's about them. And you got to realize, like, music isn't the only thing I do. Like, I try to help out with the youth, even before the new board that came in, that was also a big role, like being there for the youth, talking to the youth, because at the end of the day, I love people. You know what I mean? I love talking to people, relationships. Meeting people, not those kind of relationships, like friendships and all that stuff. So, like, I love that. So I feel like, like right now, I feel really connected with my youth, really or at least I've been close to my youth, been connected with my youth. So music isn't everything for me. Like, it's just a portion, and it's just when I'm needed, and when I am needed, it's to bless people. Like, so it's not everything. Like, people don't realize the amount of work it takes just for that Torah event. They see it as it's just a Torah event.
Yeah.
It's easy, I can do it. It's like, no, there's probably months of work being done in advance.
For sure.
It's like, for instance, like camp. Like, people really glorified being on that platform. And last year was my first time being in charge of camp. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you're saying yes to this, you're saying yes to growth. And you're probably going to hate me. And, but then eventually you're going to love me. And they're like, no, like, I'm super hyped for camp. But, man, those rehearsals were brutal. And you could ask anybody. There's a couple people that are serving this year that served last year. And you could ask any of them. And they're like, nah, Daniel's tough. But we see why, though. You know what I mean? I'm not just being hard to be hard. Like, it's for reasons. Like, why? I'm like, bro, it's because they're paying a lot of money. There's a lot of days. Like, how could we not be prepared? So, like, camp is stressful. Like, these events, even especially when you're in charge of it, it's very different than when you're just participating.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, don't over glorify it. And, ministry, at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. And they serve the people of God.
Yeah.
So,
thinking of it as service is such a, like, that needs to be like your foundation getting into any ministry, because I'm sure it gets so simple to get that mindset of an ego, and like, in any ministry you can go for anyone, but
yeah.
remembering that, like, the purpose of why you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's what I try to incorporate. I think every event that I'm in charge of, at least for Ladamop, is like, you're gonna be on this platform, you're gonna earn it. Like, you're not. I'm not gonna just let you get away with showing up, and doing whatever you want. Like, everything you do, every drum hit, every piano thing, everything that we sing, even singers included, all has to be purposeful. Why are you doing it? Is it for yourself, or is it for them? So it's. I love it. I love even like the mission LAs. Those are like the normal services we have year round, and but I even put a high standard there, because it's like, people, when they get stuck in their churches, there's nothing wrong with that. They're serving faithfully and all that, but then you get exposed to a service and all that, and you see that, and you realize where you start to stand. Like, then it becomes a wake-up call. What do I need to do to get better, kind of thing. And so, not all people take it the best way. Like, some people just don't want to grow. Some people think they do have it all figured out, and God bless those people. But like it just all depends. Like, where do you want to get in your ministry? You know what I mean? How far are you willing to go? And it's okay. Like, not everybody's willing to go as far as others, and that's fine. Like, we all have music. For a lot of the people that are serving, that's not their only ministry, so I understand that. But for those that, God is really calling them to this, like, all right, like, you're gonna grow. Like, and I tell them, like, you're being part of the service. Like, I'm grateful that it's a diverse selection of different churches, but when you say yes to this, to a Ladamop thing, you're no longer representing your church. You represent Ladamop, and there's a standard for that. However you do things at your church, that's okay, and I respect that. But when you're here, there's, like, I don't want to hear excuses. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm here to help you grow. I'm here not just to have you up here sing. It's like, I'm here to expose you to some vocal techniques or to some music concepts to help for the sake of your growth.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to take it. And, I feel like that's a big part of the selection process, at least for me. Don't know how it is anywhere else out there, and I can't speak for nobody else, but for myself. Like, one, I look like to how they're good standing in their church. But two, like, are they humble? Or are they proud? And then, like, three, are they willing to take correction, or are they willing to grow? You know what I mean? And if they're not really willing, not really good in all three of those things, it's hard to choose people like that. At the end of the day, I'm like, I'm choosing you to serve them. And if you're not on it, they're gonna feel the repercussions of your actions. So I'd rather just choose someone else that maybe isn't even as good, but has the right heart, because at least they're willing to grow.
Ultimately, too, if you're in ministry, like, why wouldn't you want to grow, right? Why wouldn't you want to be essentially, like, thrown in the fire to find out, like, how much can you do? How much can you...
Exactly. Like, Like why adopt the mentality that you have it all together when you don't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't have it all together, and I hope I never come off of that to anybody that I choose that Daniel's cocky or Daniel's like all that. Because the reality is, dude, like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be 24 tomorrow, and like I don't got time for drama. I don't have
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
On behalf of the podcast, guys, happy birthday to Daniel.
Yeah, like I really don't have time for drama and to start allowing emotions take place in the ministry because it has no place. You know, the spirit takes priority. The spirit takes place. So like, sorry, like I'm gonna try to do everything respectfully as I can, but also like don't get all in your ego and get all hurt when people start calling you out on certain stuff that maybe you should have been working on at your local church. You know,
that's good. Oh, shit. Do me a favor. Can you check the camera? How much time does it have left?
7 minutes.
Oh, okay. Anyways. Okay, I want to bring up a topic. I'm sure you have your thoughts on it. Let's talk about competition in ministry. Let's mindset of it. Let's talk about hearing that. What comes to your mind?
Yeah, a lot of things.
This is it.
Couple things. I think we could go like by tiers of people.
Okay.
To like the young humble musicians that's starting and just really trying their best. Like don't compare yourself. Like I wish I was told that. Like don't compare yourself. Like if you're being put in places that you really do feel unqualified for, and that you really don't belong, like own that because maybe you really don't qualify, but you're there because God put you there, and so like trust what God's doing. Don't care about what other musicians are saying, or what the public opinion on you is, or like if you deserve to be there. The reality is, if you've been asked, you have to treat it like you've been called, and just give your best, and that's it. Don't compare yourself. Like, don't enter that, because then you're always not going to be good enough, and that's not the measure of success. I think the measure of success is were you sensitive, you have the right heart, and did you serve the people? You know what I mean? No matter on any skill level, you know. To the musicians that like have been there for a minute, you know, and you know are trying to find their place in the music world and all that. Feel like there's nothing wrong with a little competition.
Okay.
But I wouldn't look at it like competition.
Okay.
I would look at it like, oh, like we're trying to grow off each other. Or like, no, this person is better than me. Like, dude, there's these guitar players and bass players that play better keys than I do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And do I get all jealous and like big egoed and all proud to where I start trying to prove myself? No, I'm like, dude, I like what he's doing. You know what I mean? So if it's respectful, healthy, and all that. Once it starts turning into where drama's involved, where emotions involved, where we start putting people down, where we start talking bad about people behind the scenes, you know, and we stop wishing the best for people when we start wishing the worst for people, then that's completely and 100% wrong. The reality is, like that's not coming from like a humble place. I know it's very basic, but the way I like to look at it too is like this: like the Bible says, like God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I think it's like that, more or less. I'm paraphrasing. So it's like you really want God to oppose you and to oppose your ministry. Be proud, have pride in your life, and God will always oppose that. And you'll always wonder why you don't get those opportunities you're searching for, and you'll always wonder why. Like I'm doing everything I can, and I'm doing like everything I can what it takes, and it's like it's coming from a place of pride. Like God will oppose that and oppose your ministry, but be humble and come from that attitude and humble yourself and pray and repent and all that from those things. Just watch how far God will take you. Like I can say many times, like my first like national event, it's probably like at 17, you know, and I was surrounded by a bunch of like big dogs, and I didn't. Not like at every event that I've gone to, I've never been like I'm supposed to be here and all that, because I genuinely believe that. Like, first off, I'm not the best, and sometimes I don't always practice the best. And musicians that know me, you know, You know, I know where I stand as a musician, but I keep getting put in these places that I'm so undeserving. Why? It's because of God. And it's even borderline where like, I feel like saying no to some of these things because I'm like, it's a cool concept, but like there's so many better people. But you have to, if you accept it from a place of humility, like, well, I'm here because of God, like not even because of me, then I think that's a better mindset rather than like, yeah, I made it, we made it, and all that. And the reality is like it's like music goes beyond these big tier events. You know what I mean? Music could go beyond all that. Like just because you play a convention doesn't mean you made it. Like it's an awesome blessing. And dude, like I was so grateful to be part of it last year. And I will always say yes to those things. Like why? Because I believe in serving God's people. But also, like I'm not gonna start acting different just because I got asked those things. I'm still gonna be the same me. I'm still gonna love people and love talking to people. And my crowd is not gonna change just because of those events. You know what I mean? So it's like we gotta be careful on like how we define competition, how we use it, because we're competing, but we're competing with gossip. We're competing with you know, with rumors and all that, and we're like putting those things on people, and you know we get into rooms of people where it makes the difference. Like when you get put in rooms with people that are in charge and you start bad mouthing to them and all that, like God's gonna oppose that, and you will see like struggling in your ministry for sure. So like be careful about that, because that honestly gossip, emotions, and all that has no place on the platform and has no place in any ministry. And it's just like it's so sad to think that people will do that, because it's like, man, you've already forgotten the point that this is all for like those people, for the people that are down there.
Yeah, and that just pulls away from what you said earlier. And like now it's like it comes from to a place of pride and just like I deserve this and why, as opposed to no, I'm gonna work so hard at my craft to serve these people the best that I can. I mean, so and I honestly too I do get what you mean too, in the sense of like a little healthy competition doesn't seem to be like the worst thing. What's wrong with you and let's say a brother of yours, both of you guys putting all of your effort to see like I don't know who can bring the most out of the song, or who can do the most out of this so that let's see people can receive it better or whatever it may be. But,
exactly, not can I outdo my brother?
Exactly, but it's like the intention behind it. Is it's like I can be known as I'm better than him, or is it that I did the effort and hopefully these people will be served better because of the effort that I put in or whatever.
Yeah, and like don't try to like compete over these events like that happen year round. Like like don't glorify them, because now that's becoming your God. Like if you're thinking about that more than you're praying about God taking care of your ministry, then there's something wrong there. Like, you know?
I would say even to that extent, that's fine.
Bang.
I was gonna say, to that extent, like, instead of glorifying these events, these like camps or even things like convention, like, why not go back and put that effort like into your local church, right? Like,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, like if you're doing more output at these events, but you're not present in your local church, like that's kind of messed up in my opinion. Like you're robbing those people of like the same way that you're blessing these masses of people.
Yeah.
Just because what? It's a smaller crowd. Like no, they're all people too. They all have souls too. So like, why withhold your gift at your local church when they probably need it more than people need you at NYA?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
Exactly.
they need you more there. Like, and then we wonder why our churches aren't getting filled. And then start church hopping.
Yeah.
It's like, well, bro, like, did you put the effort? Like, did you actually help your church? It's like that.
We got a little special guest.
Luckily, I can't pray.
Oh, okay. You guys can't see my dog walk by. But I think, yeah, I wanted your opinion on that because I know from what I've seen that you see a lot of work get put into these. And I've seen it in myself too, where it's just I'll put so much effort into an event that, and Sunday will roll around where I have to go back to church and it's like, oh dang, like,
Coming off of this high.
yeah.
You gotta be careful with that high, like, try to not make everything so emotional because you make these events emotional when your focus should be like, did these people even receive God, or did they just receive a big production team? Like, so you gotta not let those highs control you because again, like post camp depression or like it's a real thing, you know, and it's sometimes less extreme than others, but like that, like there's no use in like pushing, like elevating like these events, bam, bam, and then it's over, and it's like, what do you do? So it's like, are you the same person with or without these events? You know, are you gonna keep putting the same output, or like, are you're only giving output depending on what can be given to you? And yeah, like, no, don't fall for the trap of of those highs, like especially for people in music. Like, these events are great and God moves and they're amazing, but one day you're gonna be older and one day you're not gonna be asked for these events anymore. And is the thought of that like damaging for you? Like, is the thought of that like gut wrenching for you, where you're like, man, one day I'm gonna be like irrelevant? Then there's something wrong with the heart right there. You know, if it's more of like, man, I'm grateful for every opportunity, and I don't know if this will be my last, so I'm gonna treat every event like my last. You know what I mean? And I've been on both sides, so I haven't always done it perfect, but definitely more times than not, I have been like, bro, like I don't think I'll ever ask for this again, and I am okay with that because I'm just called for now, and that's okay. Like, I am rooting for the people that will take over. You know what I mean? I am happy for them, like, because they're coming. You know what I mean? The new generation, they're already here. And it's funny because people are like, bro, you are that generation. I'm like, nah, dude, I already see these like 15 to 18-year-olds that are coming up. And I'm like, dude, I'm 24 now. We're about to be 24. So it's like I feel like, man, my time almost done. And I'm okay with that because I'm just grateful to even be part of the team. And that includes being MD.
That was great. But for my last question, this is going to be a recurring question that I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. But if you were talking to yourself at the age of 15, what is one thing that you wish that you could say? So think about it. Think about me. Imagine me as your 15-year-old self. What would you tell me?
I'll say be strong in your identity. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to say no. Again, like getting sucked into that vacuum of the pressure of performing, of saying yes to literally everything. And we say yes to everything sometimes at the expense of our own health, at the expense of our own mental health, at the expense of our own spiritual walk sometimes. And it's okay to say no if it's really about you taking care of yourself and your growth. Because again, music stuff, it's great, but it's not everything. Like, what matters more is your soul. Like, it's you as a person. So, don't be shy about your identity. You know, you can be yourself and be a beacon of light to others. You know, without being so judgmental, without pointing people out on their sins and stuff. That's not what we're called to do. But also, you know, be realistic. Like, know what you can handle. Know when to say no. And so it's okay to not be okay, but don't stay not okay. Continue to grow. Stay humble. God opposes the proud. I love that verse because, like, definitely I feel like there's been moments where I've been humbled by God, even on stage in certain events, you know, where it has been like, dude, like, this is not even for you, this is for me. You know what I mean? So just be careful about that because God will oppose those that are proud. And yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah. Perfect. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I mean, for being the first guest and being willing I really hope something that we talked about, someone on the other end of the screen is watching that may have spoke something into them. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, it was great. I'm really excited to see how it all looks. But that's it. It's a wrap for episode 1. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
dude.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
No problem.
What's up, guys? Real quick, we just finished up a great episode. I just want to tell you guys real quickly that I want to accept all of your questions. I want, for my next guest that we have on, not quite sure who it's going to be just yet, but I know you guys are going to be very excited for it. But with that being said, I want you to send any messages, any texts, any questions that you may have that you want talked about, questions that you want answered from people that are a bit more knowledgeable, that have more of an understanding, a little bit more experience. But with that being said, feel free to shoot us a DM, make a comment, and I'll take note of everything. Hopefully I'll be able to pick a couple and just ask them to our next guest. If not, I'll save them for a guest that we have that will be I feel like will be a little better to answer that question. But please, with that being said, your questions are welcome and are encouraged. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.